Hey guys, I'm so glad to meet with you today. Yesterday we went into Acts chapter 17. We were reading verse 28. Paul the Apostle speaking in Athens to a crowd that was gathering there that wanted to hear what he had to say. And he said, "For in him we live and move and exist, even as some of your own poets have said, for we also are his children." You know, God made us in his image, and Paul was Jewish and therefore was rooted in the first five books of the law that Moses wrote, inspired by the Holy Spirit, one being Genesis, the first book. And Paul embraced the biblical account of our humanity's emergence, how we came to be. And it's embedded in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He said, "Let there be light." And then in verse 27 and 28, he said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness." And male and female, he created them. So there's real definition there about our origin, about our identity, about our purpose, and about our destiny. And again, it's repeated here in this three-prong point in this amazing, powerful sentence. In him, we live and move and exist. You know, people wonder, does life start at conception? There's all this discussion. It starts with God. He's the author of life. And John 14:7 says that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. The Greek word is zoe, and it's a kind of existence that emanates from God that is unique. It's where natural existence comes from. It's where all our perceptions come from, all our resources, all our experiences. God in the beginning created. And no, we didn't just happen as a consequence of so much stardust and asteroid formations and cataclysmic primordial stew. Those are theories that have been floating around. But we don't have to theorize when we know God to be true and we know his word to be right. Recently, I heard, because of some of the political conflict in today's world, a guy weighed in about how he felt that the Bible, he said it was a stupid book. And I thought, wow, man, no, it's not. I felt sorry for him. I've been praying for him. But that, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak, and I think people think that if you just get religion out of the way, there'd be no wars. If you get the Bible out of the way, it'd be a lot worse, because it's a lamp to our feet and it's a light to our path. And in it, it reveals that Jesus is the anchoring foundation for our existence. In him, we live and move and exist. In him, yesterday I talked a little bit about he gives life to the dead. He is a life giver. His word is spirit and it's life. Well, in him we move. Now I think about obeying God and walking out our faith, and just first of all, he gives us movement. I have friends that some are paraplegic. I've had friends that are quadriplegic. And they're just so grateful to have any kind of movement. I mean, I know some quadriplegics where they can move to be able to breathe, but they have to have breathing assist. So they don't even have the activity of the muscles around their lungs to be able to have respiration. So they even need a machine for that. And I remember one time I was talking to a guy that was a quadriplegic, and he snapped his neck diving off of a pier in a lake up north somewhere. And they don't know if he hit a large, like a muskie or pike, a northern pike fish, or a submerged log. They don't know what he hit, but he hit something that snapped his neck. And fortunately, some of his friends kept his head above water. But while he was talking to me, the breathing tube came out dislodged out of his throat. And he mouthed to me, "Would you please put that back in?" And I went, and I stuck it back in. And I said, so then he continued to talk to me. And we were talking about the Lord, and his love for Jesus is so deep. And I asked him, he just kept eating at me. Finally, I said, "Hey, what would have happened if I hadn't put that back in?" He said, "I would have died." And I thought, that's pretty precarious. And I thought, wow. And yet this guy just loves life. He moves, even though he has reduced movement due to that accident. His condition, still he wants to connect with God. My youngest son told me about the man that was in an iron lung. I guess he was the last one to have contracted, what was it, smallpox or something, where he had to live in an iron lung. And he lived into his 70s, I think, and it showed him, the big iron lung is this apparatus that's like keeps a pressure kind of on the body because the body couldn't keep itself in the right. I don't know what it all amounts to medically, but he couldn't survive without it. So his existence was with a lot of reduced movement, but yet he was leaning and facing the camera, and he had this beaming smile. And actually, my son said he had wanted to meet him because he was inspired that in his existence, he's making the most of it. His restriction of movement, still he honored and loved life. And I think we need to understand that in him we live and move and have our being. And whenever I get dull spiritually, or whenever I'm just imbibing on other ideas and I start kind of not thinking as much about the Lord, I notice it's not nearly as fulfilling. It doesn't satisfy the longing of my soul. I mean, there's some things like I'll go off and learn about, different trees or constellations in the sky or bugs or birds. I just found a new bird that is a migratory bird that I've never seen in my yard before, as far as I could remember. And I talked to a guy in church about it, and he pulled it up on his phone and he named it. I described it very vaguely. It had a red dot and it had a gray collar, and did it have a big beak? I said, yeah, it's a grosbeak something or other, a red-throated grosbeak or something. He immediately knew, And he and I, we're in church and we're there to worship God and study his word, but we're also grateful for what he created. He gave life. He caused us to move like that migratory bird. I think about sea turtles migration or bird migration or even monarch butterfly migration. And because I'm a believer, I believe that all comes from God. In him we live and move and exist. The butterflies don't have a real long lifespan, but they make the most of it. Even in my state of Missouri, I found out there's this unique moment where there's a convergence of two species of cicadas that are emerging out of the ground. Listen to this. One's incubation period is 13 years, and the other's is 17 years. So they've been laying in a larva state, waiting all this time, and now it just so happens that these two coincide, and they're going to burrow up out of the ground. And in just a very short time here, we're supposed to have like Rolling Stone 747 jet engine decibels of trillions of these creatures coming. And it's awesome. And yet I go back to this. In him we live and we move and we have our being. We exist. He gives life and breath to all. Apart from him, we could do nothing, but we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And he is the giver of life. He's saved me from so many things. And he's helped me to move. What moves you? Jesus was moved with compassion. I'll close with this. I was watching a news program, and this guy he's an agitator, and he thinks people should be disruptors and express their views on their animus toward what they don't agree with in the government. And it was interesting what he was advocating. I was praying for him this morning. I really don't understand his train of thought or his logic. I think when the tyrants get so bad, you got to take a stand. But the stand I think we should take is that in him we live and we move and we have our being. And settle in on the goodness of God. And then from that, he'll show us how to move and what to do in our cooperation with his leadership. I pray we all hit the will of God and the mark in our lives, and God, the Holy Spirit will help us, and the Word will help us. Jesus, as the head, the firstborn of many brethren, Romans 8:29, will help us to conform to his image and get this verse and really live it out. God bless you.